everyone, welcome to our back to school tasting. I feel like I was just saying welcome to our schools out for summer tasting. I feel like this summer absolutely flew by, but we are so happy to have you back. Welcome back to everyone who has done this before. I feel like we're making a little family. I love seeing the familiar names popping back every other time we do this, so it's really fun. If you haven't done this before, welcome. My name is Lauren. I will be your host for tonight, and I'm gonna walk you through our history of Ethel M, a few ground rules, and then I will hand it over to Tammy Jo, who will be your chocolatier. And it looks like we have people joining us from all over tonight, a little heavier on the West and the Midwest, so that is awesome. I love to see that variety. So also I just want to say good luck to everyone who is starting school this week or started last week. I know here in Vegas, it's a little bit of a mix between last week and this week, but I just want to wish all the students good luck, all the parents good luck. I know it's looking a little different this year, but I hope you all have a great school year. Normally when we do this experience in person, it's very interactive. So go ahead and use that chat feature while we're going through the tasting. Type out what you're tasting, what your favorite pieces are, what you're thinking. It's really fun to have that interaction with everyone else joining us from all around the country. And it's cool for us to see that too, if you're agreeing with what Tammy Jo is saying. If you taste different flavor notes, everyone is a little bit different. If you have any questions throughout the experience, go ahead and type that into the Q&A function. I will be monitoring that, and I will answer as many questions throughout the tasting as I can, but I will leave the majority to Tammy Jo since she is our expert for tonight. As I mentioned, since this is usually very interactive and unfortunately we can't hear or see you, I'd love for everyone to take a photo right now of how your setup is at home. We love seeing everyone joining us from different spaces, who they're with. Go ahead and tag us on social media if you have it, at Ethel M Chocolates or hashtag Ethel M Chocolates, so we can try and feature you and just see how you have that set up. My last thing is I'd love for you to stay to the very end so I can talk to you about some upcoming tastings and give you a discount code as well. I'll go ahead and get into the history of Ethel M if you aren't already familiar. So Ethel M Chocolates was started by Forrest Mars Sr. He's that top left photo. Him and his father, Frank Mars, actually started the Mars Chocolate Company, which some of you may have heard of: M&M's, Skittles, Twix, Snickers. That was all them. So when Forrest retired in 1976, he moved to Henderson in search of that warmer climate, and then got a little bored in his retirement, so he started making chocolate again, this time using his mother Ethel's family recipes that he learned in their kitchen in Tacoma, Washington. And these recipes date back to 1911. So he started making the chocolate and then started building what is now our factory in Henderson. And you'll see it in that top middle photo, our factory garden. And if you look closely, you can see a little patio, and that's actually where Forrest lived while he worked in the factory. He was there every day helping, making sure everything was running smoothly, which is pretty awesome. You'll see just outside of our factory is also our cactus garden. So Forrest started what is now today our 3-acre cactus garden, and we have over 300 different species of cactus. It's really beautiful in the spring. It's especially beautiful in the winter time. From November 6th to January 5th, we have our holiday season, where we decorate our cactus garden with over 1 million LED lights. It's a huge winter wonderland. It's so beautiful to see. This year, we are doing our first ever virtual cactus garden lighting. So we're gonna turn on the lights in the entire garden for the first time all together, and we're gonna do it virtually so everyone can join us. If you haven't been here before, it is truly amazing. And the last thing I wanna talk about, and one of my favorite things about Ethel M and Mars as a company, is how sustainably focused we are. So you'll see on that bottom left photo our solar panels. We actually have a solar panel garden that stretches behind our cactus garden for 4.4 acres of just solar panels. And being in Vegas and Henderson, we are very lucky to have sunlight most days of the year. Today was most likely made with solar power, which makes me feel good about eating 6 pieces at a time, knowing that it was made in a sustainable way, which is amazing. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce Tammy Jo. She has been with us for almost 20 years. So we started in 1981. That means She has been with us for almost half the time we have even been a company, which is amazing. She's on the factory side giving tours, so she knows all about the machines and how the pieces are made. And now she works on the retail side where she trains associates daily. She does these chocolate tastings, and she's always learning something more about Ethel M and Mars and the way we make our chocolate. So I'd like to hand it over to Tammy Jo.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tammy Jo. How are you guys doing today? Are you excited about school? I know I'm very excited to see what this new year brings. It's going to be pretty exciting. So yes, as Lauren was saying, I have 20 years of experience in eating chocolate. I am a professional, and I'm going to share all of my food tricks and eating tricks with you. And yes, that seems weird, but I do have some pretty cool, fun tricks that we're going to be trying today. So let's learn how to eat chocolate properly. The first step is getting all of our supplies ready. So make sure you get a drink of water so that you can cleanse your palate between each new piece. And if you haven't already, get out your placemats. My video's not on. We're having some technical difficulties, so let's just make sure that you guys can see me. But let's go over the steps. Step number one is touch and feel. So you're gonna like pick up your piece, you're gonna touch it, you're gonna feel it, you're gonna look at what that looks like and think to yourself, is this a molded piece or an enrobed piece? And we're gonna talk about what those two processes mean, and you're gonna learn a lot about how pieces are created. But really take a look at each piece and squeeze it, touch it. Then we're gonna smell the piece because 80% of our taste comes from our smell. So you're gonna really heighten your taste buds by smelling your chocolate, okay? And then we're gonna go into the bite, but not just any bite. The first bite is crucial. Just kidding. We're gonna take a small bite. Don't eat the whole thing at once, small bite. You're gonna chew a couple times, push it up to the roof of your mouth and let it melt away slowly. From there, you're gonna think about the texture and the taste of the piece. And then we also, as you're enjoying the piece, I'll tell you some fun facts about how the piece was created. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at our placemat. So our placemat is really gonna show us tools that we can use to really heighten the experience as well, because there's the name, there's sight and feel, there is aroma, meaning what do you smell, and then overall thoughts of your experience of what you thought of the texture and what if you liked the piece. And the flavor wheel is important because some of the flavors are different and unique. And so the more you taste it, the more different flavors and different categories will pop out at you. So maybe it'll go into dairy, or maybe it will go into like roasted or earthy. So you never know. And we're going to talk about why they go into those categories. So again, if you're not set up yet, just make sure you get your placemat, get your water, get your chocolates out. And let's go ahead and try the first piece together. So our first piece that we're going to be trying today is our solid milk chocolate heart. So think about how this piece was created. This is going to be a solid heart, so there's no filling. Do you guys think it was a mold, or do you think that it was enrobed? Like, what do you think? Okay, so now we're going to smell our chocolate. So go ahead and take a deep breath in and smell your chocolate. And now we're going to go ahead and take a bite. So good. Really let that melt on your palate and think about all the flavors you're getting. Now, obviously it tastes like chocolate, but go deeper. What makes it taste like chocolate? What else are you tasting? For me, I taste a little bit of dairy. It does taste kind of like cooked milk. And it goes into sweet or aromatic because it has a little hint of vanilla and a little bit of caramelization because of the way that the milk chocolate is created. And it also goes into roasted, but more of like a soft cacao flavor there. So as you're enjoying your piece, I'm going to tell you about how this piece was created. So as you see in the photo here, there's this really cool mold. This is a molded piece. And there's a couple different ways we can do a molded piece. What we're doing in the photo here is we're pipe bagging. So we put the chocolate in a pipe bag, and then we're squeezing the chocolate into each little cavity of the mold. And you might notice that this particular piece has kind of like a color on the mold. Sometimes when we get fancy, we airbrush our chocolates with a little fancy cocoa butter to decorate it for certain holidays. So that's what you're seeing on the mold there, which is pretty cool. And this is a solid milk chocolate. It's very, very delicious, right? I'm gonna take one more bite. This one's so good. And you wanna remember to make sure that you cleanse your palate in between each piece so that you have fresh taste buds for the next piece. As you're enjoying that piece, let's learn some more fun facts about the trees themselves, like where do they come from? So cacao trees can only grow 20 degrees north and south of the equator. The reason for this is because they really need a very high humidity, lots of moisture in the air, lots of shade, so they can only grow in these dark shaded areas. So South America, West Africa, and parts of Asia are the main areas that you can find cacao trees. What's really interesting is that we source our beans from Indonesia, Brazil, and West Africa. And that is the blend of beans that we use for our chocolate. Let's learn a little bit more detail about the trees themselves. So in this photo, you can see this really odd and weird looking fruit tree. And yes, I said fruit. The pod is considered the fruit of the tree. That means that chocolate could be considered a fruit. It's a long stretch, but I'm gonna say, why not? So this is a dehydrated cocoa pod. And as you can hear, be really quiet and listen. You can hear that the beans are still inside. So this is kind of like a shrunken head version. It's dehydrated so that it can be preserved. Almost kind of like, yeah, like a shrunken head. So the beans are still inside, and roughly 45 to 60 beans will be in each pod. Now to get it off the tree, we actually have to use a machete technology, because when they're ripe, they don't just fall off the tree, and we can't just twist it and pull it off. You'd have to cut it because the stem here is really, really thick. So they have to use a machete to cut it off the tree, and then they crack it open and get the goods inside. The beans, if we go back to that photo there, you can see it's covered in this really gooey pulp, and it's really slimy looking. I actually got the opportunity to try one once, and oh my gosh, it was so, so weird. It did not taste like chocolate at all, and it was very slimy and chewy, and it kind of tasted like a mango and a pineapple combined, but also neither of those, because the bean is extremely bitter and kind of like an espresso bean, but even stronger than that. So if you ever get the opportunity, you should definitely try one. So once they gather all the beans, they're gonna go into a process called fermentation, which is basically they're gonna bake in a big, huge heap in a box. And what happens is they keep all that pulp on there, and that creates sugar, and it kind of burns off and changes the acidicness of the bean, and that basically helps prepare it for making chocolate. The last stage at the farm is the sun drying process. So what they do is they put it on a bamboo table or sometimes a deck of a roof, and they dry it out. And the reason for that is because, again, they're in a high humidity area, so they have to make sure that all the beans are dried out. So instead of being in a big heap all on top of each other, they're gonna spread it out in a thinner layer and constantly rotate it throughout the day so it's completely dried out. All this talk about chocolate has made me more hungry for more, so why don't we try our next piece? All right, our next one is our milk chocolate satin cream. This one's really thick and fudgy. So let's kind of give it a little squeeze. And you can see it's smooth, right? But it also is bumpy because of all these little ridges. And we're gonna talk about how each of those little ridges were created. Okay, so now let's smell our chocolate. Don't take a bite yet because I have a really cool food trick to share with you. So let's smell our chocolate and really think about what do we smell. Smells pretty delicious, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some of our senses away. Remember earlier how I mentioned that your taste mostly comes from your smell? We're gonna take our smell away, and it's gonna seem a little odd, but it really heightens all of the flavor. So what I want you to do is I want you to plug your nose like this, okay? So once your nose is plugged, you're going to then take a bite of chocolate. So smell one more time. Plug your nose like this and take a bite. and let go before you pass out. What did you guys think? This is that opportunity. Definitely ask questions. Use your chat box and share what you thought. Could you taste it when your nose was plugged, or could you not taste it? So for me, I taste very dairy flavor, lots of dairy, lots of kind of butter and cream. And again, that cooked milk because of the milk chocolate, but I also taste a little bit of a difference, more sweet aromatics, more vanilla. It tastes kind of almost like caramel too because of the caramelized buttercream, and a little bit more roasted flavor as well. So this picture, let's talk about that. As you're enjoying it, I'm gonna tell you about how this piece was made. This is our up close enrober machine. So delicious. I know what you guys are thinking. You wanna go through this. I do too. It's been a dream since I started here. I've always wanted a life-size machine I could walk through. It would be so cool. But yeah, this is our enrobing machine. So basically, our buttercreams are very thick and fudgy, so they can be shaped through an extruder. So they basically make it this round little patty. From there, it goes into the carton of chocolate. And the reason why it has that wire conveyor belt is because as the chocolate's flowing down, it's actually going through those bars and back into the tank where the chocolate is being pumped up. So there's no wasted chocolate here in the chocolate waterfall enrobing machine. So no worries there. So as you're, if you're finished with your piece, remember to cleanse your palate with some water. All right, let's try some more chocolate. The next one is our chewy caramel. So this piece is a little bit different, right? It's a different shape. And we're gonna talk about how they get the shape. Also, you'll notice that it has milk chocolate and it has dark chocolate. So this one has both types of chocolate on it. All the little ridges on this one are different. And I saved my other piece because I wanted to show you something. So if you take a look at the designs, they are completely different. This one's a lot closer together. This one's more further apart from it. And really notice and pay attention to how those designs are slightly different on every piece that we have today. So let's go ahead and we're gonna squeeze it a little bit. It's kind of firm, right? It's a little firmer than the last piece that we tried. So let's go ahead and smell it and see what we can smell. Now, I personally can't taste the caramel, but maybe you can. Sometimes if you have a hard time smelling it, you can rub it on the bottom. It kind of warms it up. I still can't smell the caramel, but I know it's in there. So let's go ahead and take a bite. My favorite thing about our caramel is that it's not sticky. It's nice and chewy, but it doesn't stick to your teeth, which is amazing. So as you guys are enjoying your piece, I'm gonna tell you some more fun facts about how this piece was created. So as you can see, it is a square. How do they get that shape? Well, they cook all of the caramels in our copper kettle steam kettles. Then they're gonna pour it onto the table, onto our cooling tables. And each table has some pipes in it, cooling the table down to the perfect temperature depending on what they're cooling. So they pour it on, they let it cool, and then they cut it into slabs. From there, they take the big slabs of caramel and they run it through a machine that cuts it. And they turn it around, they cut it the opposite direction, kind of like a grid. So it gets these perfect square pieces every single time. From there, they are placed on the conveyor belt. And then this shot of the enrober, you can see them being on the conveyor belt as they're about to go into the curtain of chocolate. So again, they're gonna go through that curtain chocolate. They're gonna get covered on all sides. There's also a fan that blows warm air onto each piece to kind of make sure it has a perfect smooth chocolate shell. And then it goes through a cooling tunnel and is gonna get that fancy little drizzle on the chocolate. So how that works, it's called a stribbing machine. And there's these little tiny hoses, and each hose has a very thin stream of water, little chocolate going down. And depending on how fast the conveyor belt is moving and what pattern that is shaking in will determine the design on the piece. And each piece has its own unique design for the design drizzle. So that kind of helps you identify what piece it is, which is really cool. All right, so let's learn some more fun facts about chocolate. let's talk about the beans themselves and how does the bean turn into chocolate. So let's talk about that. So here we have some really big beans. They're a lot bigger than coffee beans, right? But they almost taste similar. This is what they look like. Let me get a big one out here and we're gonna crack it open so you can see really what is inside of it. So I'm gonna take the shell off and it just kind of crumbles off. It comes right off. And then we're gonna crack it open. Okay, so this is what the bean looks like completely in the inside. So that's what it looks like. It's nice and brown on the inside and it just kind of crumbles really easily. So what happens is they sort through the beans. We have this plate that they put the beans inside. We shut it and then we can slice them open and we look on the inside of every bean and what we're looking for is a dark brown color. We don't want it to be pink inside because pink would mean that it's not completely fermented and we wouldn't want to use those beans. So we sort through them, we get all the good ones and then we bag them up and we ship them to Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. And from there, that's where they get roasted to bring out all the flavor. They get ground into what's known as a chocolate liqueur. And that is pure 100% chocolate. If you look at the grind and mixing picture, just that one particularly, look at how buttery that looks. So this is kind of like the middle stage. This is a nib. Nibs are basically ground beans, so they're kind of chopped up, but they look really, really buttery. The reason for that is because cocoa beans are 50% cocoa butter and 50% cocoa solid. So a lot of people ask, is white chocolate really chocolate? Yes, it is. The reason is that once you grind it up, it already has enough cocoa butter in it to be a liquid. And then we extract the cocoa butter out. You can add cream, sugar, and vanilla to that. That's kind of the base of white chocolate. So for milk chocolate, it's gonna have cacao solids, it's gonna have some milk, it's gonna have some sugar. And of course, dark chocolate is gonna have more cacao solids and less milk and less sugar. So the higher the percentage, the darker it's gonna look in color and the darker and more roasted flavors you're going to notice. And that's why dark chocolate tastes a little bit more bittersweet. And then we have our tempering and enrobing. So once the chocolate's ready, they ship it to us and then we temper our chocolate to the perfect temperature for making our chocolates. We have to heat it up for a long period of time. Then when it gets to that certain point where it's warm enough, then we slowly cool it down and then we hold it at that magical temperature for making chocolate. Then it's gonna go through the enrober or the one-shot depositor. We haven't gotten to talk about that process yet. So that brings us to our next piece, which is one of my personal favorites because of the texture of this piece. It's a lot different than the ones that we've tried. So far we've had a solid, so that one's kind of firm. We've had a buttercream, which has been kind of thick and fudgy. We've had a chewy caramel. Now we're gonna try our milk chocolate truffle. So really take a look at this piece. This one's almost completely round and it's really bumpy. It's kind of looks like very free flowing and just kind of lots of texture there. So let's go ahead and smell our chocolate. Smells pretty good, right? Let's go ahead and take a bite. So right off the bat, you can tell the texture is completely different. It almost just kind of melts in your mouth. It's really silky. The texture is just like super smooth. And that's because this is a ganache. Ganache is basically heavy whipping cream and chocolate. And then we add different flavors into it. This one is gonna have like a hint of vanilla because it's just our, and our chocolate. So it's our milk chocolate truffle. So with this one, let's talk about how this piece was made while you guys are enjoying it. This is a molding process. So basically, it's a pretty interesting mold. It is two pieces and they're like a half circle and they connect together with a magnet, creating this perfectly round ball. Then it goes into a machine called the one-shot depositor where it deposits the filling and the chocolate shell all in one shot. Basically, there are two tanks. They're kind of shaped like a triangle. One will have the chocolate filling and one will have the chocolate shell and they intertwine with two nozzles. So the inside nozzle is connected to the filling. The outside nozzle wraps around that and that one's connected to the chocolate shell. and then it does the filling and shell all in one shot, which is pretty awesome. It takes 60 seconds per mold. After it is created in the one-shot depositor, it goes into a cooling tunnel where it is chilled, or a cooling fridge. From there, then they have to open up each mold, take out the truffles, and then because it's a mold, it's nice and smooth and perfectly round. So from there, you're wondering, where does that big bowl of chocolate in the photo I saw come in? Well, this is where it happens. Once we take all the molds out, the chocolates out of the molds, we're gonna put it in a bowl and we're gonna stir it up by hand to give it that bumpy, very smooth, kind of like dripping effect on the chocolate truffle. And that's how it gets that really bumpy design. So each one is gonna be completely different looking. It's a very free-flowing piece, even though it was used in a mold, which is pretty cool. Some of our truffles have something sprinkled on the outside, so you can kind of identify it by what's sprinkled on top. So as you're finishing that piece, remember to cleanse your palette with the water, and then we'll move on to our next piece. All right, let's see, what do we got next? Ooh, raspberry satin cream. So our raspberry satin cream comes in milk and in dark. Today we're going to be trying it in the milk chocolate with the dark chocolate drizzle. If it's in dark chocolate, it's going to have milk chocolate drizzle. And you'll notice again, the pattern of this one is completely different compared to our chewy caramel that we tried, or even the other the plain milk chocolate satin cream we had didn't have the same design. This one has kind of like a interlocking design where it kind of overlaps itself, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and smell our piece. It smells pretty good. Can anybody smell the raspberry? With this piece, I actually can smell the filling. So I don't smell just chocolate. For me, it kind of smells like almost like a cherry or just really fruity. So let's go ahead and take a bite. It has that similar texture just like the milk chocolate buttercream. It's very thick, it's very fudgy, but it's tart and tangy and kind of zesty. This one goes into a lot of different categories. It goes into dairy because of the milk chocolate and the butter from the buttercream. It also goes into fruity with that really tart but sweet raspberry. We actually use a raspberry puree to get that flavor in. And then it also kind of goes into floral a little bit, kind of perfumey. I would say maybe lavender or even a rose kind of flavor, and definitely sweet aromatics with a little bit of vanilla. So this piece is a buttercream, and we have a specially designed buttercream mixer that you see in the photo there. And when they make this piece, it's interesting because when they make it, it kind of looks like a caramel. It's basically butter and caramelized sugar. They're going to cool it down to about 100 degrees, and then they're going to put it in the cream beater. And the cream beater is going to slowly mix and cool at the same time. And the whisks, or the scrapers that push the filling around, are designed to kind of make it fold in on itself. So it's just really slowly getting thicker and then thicker and then thicker until it gets this really thick fudgy texture that we're noticing right now in our piece. From there, it's going to go through the extruder to get shaped into that round patty. It goes through that enrober, and then it's going to get drizzled with that stripping machine. And this one's very interesting. I got to go inside the factory one time and actually see it being drizzled. So this one's very cool. When it's going through, it moves very, very slowly on the conveyor belt. And then the drizzling machine will actually shake in a circle very slowly. And that motion, as the wheel is going, as the pieces are going through, that's what is creating that kind of overlapping drizzle design. And I just think that's fascinating, that just the slightest touch or movement that they can change that machine to drizzle in a different pattern or speed up or slow down the conveyor belt can completely change what the design looks like, which is pretty awesome. The possibilities of decoration are endless. It's so fun. All right, well, you guys, we're almost at the end, and I don't want to go yet because I'm having so much fun with you guys. But let's head into the dark side for our next piece, shall we? Remember to cleanse your palette with some water. And let's go into the dark side with our dark chocolate vanilla buttercream. This one's gonna have that richer, darker smell. Right when you smell it, you're gonna notice that it's gonna have more of a roasted flavor right away. Go ahead and smell your chocolate. If you didn't do the nose trick, go ahead and try it one more time on this one. It's really fun, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's smell one more time. I can only smell dark chocolate. I can't smell the filling on this one. So let's see what happens when we plug our nose, okay? So let's plug our nose and take a bite. Wow, that was fun. I really couldn't taste it when my nose was plugged. What about you guys? Could you guys taste it? Definitely share in that comment box in the chat box and let us know what you thought. For me, I noticed the dark chocolate, but I didn't notice the filling until I unplugged my nose, and then all of a sudden it was just like really rich and smooth. I just saw a comment that said somebody has the dark chocolate lemon satin cream. We can talk about that too. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask questions when we open that part up. But yeah, if some of you got the dark chocolate lemon satin cream, you're gonna be tasting more of like a lemon flavor. It's gonna be very tart. It's gonna be very zesty and tangy, and definitely hits that fruit category really interestingly, and definitely the floral notes as well. So yeah, this piece again is going to go through the enrobing machine. It's going to get completely coated with chocolate, and it's going to go through that stribbener. And again, if you looked at the stribben, it is a little bit different on this one compared to the other pieces, which is pretty interesting. This one goes into dairy. It goes into sweet aromatic because of that very delicious vanilla flavor we add to that buttercream. And it definitely goes into roasted, but a lot stronger this time. You're gonna get more of a coffee, espresso kind of flavor from it because it's a rich, rich dark chocolate. All right, well that pretty much completes our pieces and our chocolate today, guys. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you learned a lot about chocolate. I had so much fun with you guys. I'm gonna hand it back to Lauren. She's gonna tell you about our upcoming specials. And if you have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you so much, Tammy Jo. I loved your those pieces. And I would love for you all to let us know what your favorite piece was. I know I love that vanilla satin cream one. I love chocolate. Now I think I can't choose what my favorite is because I love all of them. If anyone has any questions that came up, please go ahead and put that into the Q&A. What was your favorite one from tonight, Tammy Jo?
My favorite one that we tried today, I would have to say, is the truffle, because I just love the texture of it. It's so silky and so smooth.
Yes, that one is super good. Good. Well, we have some upcoming tastings coming up. Our next one is September 3rd, and we kick off Labor Day weekend with that tasting. It's on Thursday, and then you have your Labor Day weekend. So go ahead and join us. That one is already listed on our website, and if you use the code virtual at checkout, you will get a discount code on that with 15% off, as well as anything else you want to try from our store. If you want to buy more of this chocolate, if you want to try something new, I highly encourage all of the things we have. So yeah, go ahead and use that virtual at checkout again for 15% off. I hope you all have a great rest of your school year. And we have one question. I noticed in the picture, the vanilla cream had chocolate on the bottom already. Can you tell us about that process?
So
dark chocolate vanilla satin cream.
Because the buttercreams are so soft, they still can hold shape and go through that hot carton of chocolate, but they need a base. And that base is basically to prevent the wired conveyor belt from, let's see, how do I explain? So as it's transferring from a smooth conveyor belt to a wired conveyor belt that's kind of spread out, it goes from smooth to like the broken up conveyor belt. It sometimes can drip little pieces into the chocolate. And so what they want to do is they want to give it a solid chocolate base. So it's going to go through a pool of chocolate first to get the bottom coated so that when it goes into the enrober, those small little pieces don't fall into the rest of the chocolate so that it stays nice and smooth. And
Okay.
that will also make sure that the chocolate gets in that nice smooth coating. So it kind of gives it a nice little plate to sit on while it's going through and getting its bath of chocolate.
That's awesome. Do they do that as well with the chewy caramel like we tasted? Because that one is enrobed as well, right?
No, they don't have to do that with the caramel because the caramel's already very, very thick and fudgy, or like it's a more of a chewy texture and it's a little bit firmer. So because it's more kind of compacted together, it doesn't have the texture isn't going to kind of fall apart and crumble into the chocolate. So they only have to do it with like buttercreams or maybe a coconut delight, which is my personal favorite out of all the pieces we have. But yeah, that's why it has to have kind of like a little cute little plate to sit on when it goes to the enrober so it doesn't fall into the big pool of chocolate at the bottom.
Awesome. Thank you. That's
Any other
interesting.
questions? I love questions.
All right. I think that's it for tonight. I hope we see some more of you join us next week or in 2 weeks on Thursday for that Labor Day tasting. And again, that's virtual at checkout for 15% off anything on our website. So thank you all again, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Have fun with the school year. Bye, everybody.
Bye.